Alright everybody, what is up? We are back to some Legends of Runeterra content to start 2020 off, and I am souped. I cannot wait until this game finally releases. This video is going to be the first of 6, probably 7 to summarize them all, but the first of 6 videos going over every individual region. Essentially, what I'll be doing is developing some sort of power ranking for all 6 regions, but I am going to be going over individual categories for each region and assigning them a number anywhere from 1 to 6. Figured I'd do it out of 6 just so it's, the 6 different regions, make it a little bit easier, and it'll actually give us a full ranking by the time we're done going over all 6 regions. So if you're looking to scratch that Legends of Runeterra itch, you are in the right place. We got the first of 6 in Noxus coming right up. So let's get into it with a little bit of Noxus action here. Let's get into the first of the many categories that I have for these rankings. So I'll spurt out these categories real quick. We got aggressiveness or aggro capabilities. We have control, we got combo, we got mid-range. So those 4 right there kind of cover basically the 4 core archetypes of any card game. Then, more specifically to Legends of Runeterra, I go over spells, burst spells specifically. So there are actually 2 different categories for spells. The champions in every individual region, and the followers. And for the last category, we have kind of a just a special category for power cards. So basically just some of the cards that I feel are the major swing cards or combo cards in that region and how they stack up to other major combo and swing cards for the other regions. So first up, let's get into the aggro category. So for aggro, we got basically this is the aggro class. Noxus is all about rushing your opponent with not just high-powered followers and units, but also spells that buff those units in the middle of battle. And Noxus, for lack of a better term, is a face is the place region. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to try to just go after your opponent's Nexus, get them from 20 to 0 as quickly as possible. Some cards that you can do this with would be Decimate. So they did actually just change Decimate from 4 to 5, so which kind of kills it a little bit because you did have a card, Captain Farron, which would change your hand into Decimates. When it was 4, you could play 3 in 1 turn. Now, not so much. You can only play 2, so it definitely took a little bit of a hit, but it is still face damage. 4 damage straight to the face. You have something like Brother's Bond, which is, I think, a insane buff spell to buff 2 people with 2 attack. I think is a very versatile card. Plus it's a burst spell. That right there is a tribute to how aggro this actual region is. And to top it all off, you have a champion like Draven, which is all about aggro, all about constantly buffing with his spinning axes. So for aggro, they're going to get a 5 out of 6 as far as their place amongst the other 6 regions. Control. So Noxus is not exactly the best at controlling the field. Again, they just want to do damage straight to the opponent's Nexus. So they're actually going to get a 2 out of 5 in this category among the other regions. Hey, all right. If you are liking what you're seeing so far and you want more Legends of Runeterra content, definitely hit that sub button. We still got 5 more regions to go over the next couple of weeks or so. And damn, am I excited to do it. Smash the like button if you like this video thus far. And we'll get back to the Noxus region. They do have some decent control cards, though. I'm not going to lie. So you have something like Whirling Death, a battling ally strikes a battling enemy. With all the buffs that you have, this is a great way to just take out a single enemy and just kind of snipe them from nowhere. So, great card. There is another card that I think is super underrated, and that's Noxian. Oh god, I spelled Noxian wrong. Noxian Guillotine. So this kills a damaged unit. This is great. I mean, you have Vengeance, which is also a fast spell that just kills a unit. Doesn't have to be damaged. So you're saving 4 mana with the requirement that you have that unit damaged. That's not hard with this class. They do have other cards like Death Lotus. So Death Lotus, deal 1 to all battling units. This card is great. It's also good for comboing, which we'll get into in a second with this class. So it is possible to get the Noxian Guillotine off at least semi-frequently. And last but not least for control, we have Culling Strike, which is one of my personal favorites. I tried working in this card into a few decks. Didn't really work out that great, but kill a unit with 3 or less power, so your opponent has something like a pesky Braum chilling on their side, even that's maybe buffed a little bit with 2 attack, you can still kill this. Or if it even has a Braum's Take Heart on it, you can still kill it because it's got 3 powers. I do think this is a card that we'll see more play as more cards are released. All right, combo. So I personally have a special place in my heart for combo with Noxus. So this Noxus is getting a 6 out of 6. They are, I believe, the best combo class. Now, I know there is a lot of combo-esque things in every single class. P and Z has some combo stuff, which we'll get into once we go over Piltover and Zon. You obviously get some Ionia stuff with the stuns. You have a lot of combos with Shadow Isles, of course, with, you know, self-killing everything and to do damage to your opponent and whatnot. I think that the most original, the most complex, and the most rewarding combos come with Noxus. That is because of the Crimson archetype. So if you take a look at things like Crimson Aristocrat and Crimson Disciple and Crimson Awakener, I don't really like Crimson Curator that much. I don't think he's that playable right now. However, I could see a use for him as well. These 3 are amazing. This Crimson Disciple is in and of itself a win condition. If you deal damage to this card, it deals 2 damage to the enemy Nexus. That is a lot. Think in terms of Hearthstone. If you Hearthstone players, you start with 30 health, and the hero power for Hunter is deal 2 damage. This, you can do it multiple times in a turn, and you're only working with 20 health on the Nexus. So damage this 10 times, you win the game. That's very doable, and I almost think almost too overpowered and broken. And there's a lot of ways to get this combo off. You have Vladimir can get this combo off. You have Crimson Awakener can get the combo off. You have Crimson Aristocrat. You have one of my all-time favorite champion spells, Transfusion. Deal 1 to an ally, give another ally +2/+2. That is a great combat trick that will completely mess with your opponent's plans, I promise you. And the coup de grace of the combo, Blood for Blood. I think this is one of my most favorite cards in the entire game right now. Deal 1 to an allied follower. If it survives, create a copy of it in your hand. I love this card design. I think it's great. On to mid-range. So mid-range, we're actually going to get a 3 out of 6 here for Noxus. They're not the greatest at mid-range. They're not the worst at mid-range. They have a couple things going for them. They have Katarina. So she's aight. I'm not crazy about Katarina personally, but she can be very annoying. I have played against her. She can be very, very annoying. Noxus also has spiders. So I don't think their spiders are nearly as good as Shadow Isles, but they do have the spider archetype. The spider archetype is decent, to say the least. There is also the Legion archetype. So the Legion archetype is not really that much of a thing right now. I imagine will eventually be a thing once they release, you know, some new cards and whatnot. I do classify this as a mid-range, you know, archetype for Noxus, but it's just not that great. It's also kind of aggressive. I don't think any of these are great, which is why they're getting a 3 out of 5, but we're gonna give credit where credit is due. All right, now we have spells. So the spells, let's get to the spells here. The spells for Noxus right now are gonna get non-burst spells, bear in mind. So all, taking into consideration all spells, their burst, their non-burst, right now their spells are gonna be getting a 1 out of 6. And unfortunately, you know, their spells aren't even like that terrible. Like, I feel like saying they're getting a 1 out of 6 is like putting them in the garbage, and I don't think they're that bad. But when you start looking at some of the other classes and what tools that they have at their disposal for spells, you can see how underpowered they seem to be. They do have some good ones like Intimidating Roar and Reckoning, which Intimidating Roar especially can be a good combo card with a Yasuo deck. But overall, it just leaves something to be desired with most of these spells. If we go to burst spells here and only look at the strength of their burst spells, I'm actually going to give them a 5 out of 6, and that is mainly because of Transfusion and Brother's Bond and Elixir of Wrath. The strength of these 3 burst spells alone is redonkulous. Transfusion, I think, is one of the best combat tricks in this game, and it is incredibly underrated. You can trigger, basically, I know it says deal 1 to an ally, but it needs to be read as trigger the effect of an ally, give another ally +2/+2, because you're not playing Transfusion unless you're playing something or some sort of deck that benefits from damaging your own characters. And even if you are damaging a character that does not gain an added effect from being damaged, you're still getting +2/+2, which is incredible for only 2 cost. Overall, their burst spells are great, and even something like Might or Vision. Vision, I think, is the worst out of all of these. but it does have combo potential in the future. And with how good Noxus is at combos right now, I think it definitely has a lot of potential. Also, quick note, I do want to mention that there are only 5 burst spells in Noxus. There's only one class that has less burst spells, which we'll go over when we review that class. So just keep that in mind. Not all classes have the same amount of burst spells. All right, and now we have the champion. So what everybody's probably been waiting for. Unfortunately, I do not think very highly of the champions. My favorite champion, and which would probably be very highly argued that this is not the best Noxus champion, I think is Vladimir. He's very reliant upon combos, so he's really not good in any deck other than what I was mentioning with the Crimson Aristocrat and Crimson Disciple and stuff. But I do think he has the by far most potential with the regeneration when he levels up and stuff like that. Draven is good for aggro. I've played against some Draven aggro decks. I haven't played the deck myself, and I can see how it can be good, but it's just not as quick as something like Shadow Isle's Shark Chariot. And Katarina is, again, she can be annoying, but it just doesn't seem like she really has a place in this world. I have seen decks where she is okay. She's not by any means a bad champion. Like, none of these champions are bad champions. But again, when comparing them to the other regions, I don't feel as though they are nearly as good as most of the other regions. So for that reason, everybody here is going to get a 1 out of 6. And unfortunately for Noxus, the followers are not much better. Honestly, where they shine is something like the Crimson Disciple, and you do have a lot of combo initiators, like I mentioned before, the Crimson Awakener and other Crimson and Legion, stuff like that. And you also do have spiders. So you have these themes within Crimson: Spider, Legion, Crimson. You know, Crimson, I think, has the most combo potential. Therefore, they get the best combo rating. Beyond that, none of these are that great to me. They're absolutely not. I mean, I would have said Captain Farron is a power card, but with the nerf to Decimate, it's really, I mean, it wasn't that great to begin with. Now it's not great at all. Trifarian Assessor, honestly, is decent. So that could lead to some sort of deck archetype with 5+ power. It does seem to be a thing in Noxus as well. But for now, they're going to get a 2 out of 6 when you go ahead and compare them to all the other regions. And finally, the power cards. All right, so they actually, you know, considering that I'm really not giving their non-burst spells much credit, or their champions, or their followers, they're all pretty crappy in my eyes. Their power cards are interesting because their power cards, they're both spells. They both basically rely on using another class. So Intimidating Roar, stun all enemies with 4 or less power. You should be playing that in the Yasuo deck. I mean, that is amazing. You know, comboing that with Yasuo, and 4 or less power is pretty good. If it were 3 or less power, it would be significantly less powerful. But 4 or less power is great. This card is spectacular when comboed with Yasuo. The other card, which I don't really think has been seeing much play or getting much credit, is Reckoning. If you have a 5+ power ally, which again I just mentioned that is seeming to be a thing with Noxus, so I think they're going to build on that with future sets. Kill all units with 4 or less power. Again, that's really good. I mean, kill all. You have Ruination with Shadow Isles, which right here it costs 9 mana to kill all units. All right. You have Reckoning, kill all units with 4 or less power for only 6 mana. So you're saving 3 mana to probably kill all units on the field, especially if you're playing this on turn 6. I think this will be decent. You know, you could even pair this with something like a Frostbite deck. I know it seems kind of odd to pair Freljord with Noxus, but if you Frostbite their field, play Reckoning, now they're all dead. So I do think those are some pretty powerful cards that they can use. But again, in comparison to all of the other regions, these are just not that great of power cards. And to be honest, they don't work alone. Like, they need to be utilized with another region with specific combos. So again, it's an attribute to how well this region does at, you know, at combos in general, but they're just not that great. So for that reason, their power cards are going to go ahead and get a 2 out of 6. And that is it. So in total, Noxus has 27 out of a possible 54. 54 being they're the best region in all categories, which obviously that's not going to happen for any particular region, and unless you think it's going to happen for Shadow Isles. Depends. We'll see. Again, I think everybody will be quite surprised with how this list ended up. I myself am even extremely surprised. So I'm very excited to release the remainder of these videos. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all the support. I hope you guys liked this overview of Noxus thus far. I do like them as a class overall. They are actually my favorite class. So we'll wait till the end here to see where they place in this top 6 list for the power rankings for each region. It's actually pretty interesting how it ended up. As always, stay positive. Peace out.